What's up YouTube? I'm Adrian Thompson. Today we're going to talk about building generational wealth. I know I've said it once or twice on this channel, but I actually grew up pretty poor. And as a result, I've spent my whole life trying to make sure that me, my kids, and my kids' kids don't have to experience what I experienced growing up. So since that's what I've been working toward my whole life, that's how I'm going to define generational wealth in this video. To be more specific, I'm talking about building up enough money, enough assets, and the correct mindset to pass on to your kids and for them to pass on to their kids. In case you were counting, that means a minimum of 3 generations. The reason I want to go with this definition over becoming a multi-billionaire or a decamillionaire is that I think this is actually an achievable goal for most people out there. And honestly, becoming that wealthy in terms of a billionaire is more luck than it is anything else. But like I said, getting enough money for your kids to continue on your legacy, enough for your kids' kids to actually feel the effect of what you did in your life too, is an achievable goal by most people. So in today's video, let's break down exactly how you're going to build generational wealth through those 3 categories that I just mentioned: money, assets, and the correct mindset. We'll focus on the best way to accumulate money, the right assets you should be investing to, and most importantly, the correct mindset that you need to pass on to the next generation. Let's get specific with it. So when I say having enough money, what I mean is having enough cash, stocks, and bonds to take care of your kids throughout their life. And we should also define what taking care of your kids actually means. So when I say that, what I mean is your kids are never robbed of an opportunity because of finances, and they never have to worry about paying their bills because of finances. I don't mean that they can just go on whatever vacation and get whatever they want. That's not what I mean when I say robbed of opportunities. What I mean is they should be able to go to whatever college they want to go to regardless of the price. I also don't mean that they can go get a super nice apartment in a big city and never have to worry about bills, but as long as their bills are reasonable and they're keeping finances somewhat in the center of their brain, losing their job wouldn't be that big of a deal because they would still have the finances that you built up in your life to take care of them in the short term. There's obviously a balance we're trying to strike because even billionaires, if they have kids who splurge their money and just spend money recklessly their entire life, will struggle keeping that money in the family. I think the best way to break this down and actually analyze it is to put a number on it. So I actually made a video a few months back on how much money I would need to be happy. By being happy, that meant that I was able to have a little bit of entertainment and not have to worry about paying my bills. And in that video, when I broke everything down, it turns out I only need $35,000 in order to be happy. In that video, I explained how $35,000 was enough money to pay for my rent, my utilities, my phone bill. It was your general set of bills. So to put that in the context of this video, we need to find a way to make sure you have at least $35,000 available to your kids every single year of their life. However, your kids are probably going to college, and college, as we know, is quite expensive. And the average cost of college in the United States is $25,000 a year. So I'm going to round that $35,000 up to $40,000 for the sake of this video, so they're able to pay off college. Even though it might not all be at once, they're able to have that $5,000 extra a year to eventually pay off their college. Now, if we just assume our kid lives to 73, since that is the average life expectancy, you would think you could just take $73,000, multiply it by $40,000 and get $2,920,000. But the issue with that calculation is that it doesn't take into consideration inflation. So $40,000 at the beginning of your kid's life might not be worth that same purchasing power when they're 73, and definitely won't be worth that same purchasing power where your kids' kids are 73. So because of that, I'm going to adopt something called the 4% rule. So if you don't know, the 4% rule is a retirement method in the sense of you build up a nest egg, you let that nest egg be invested in stocks and bonds and cash and whatnot with an average return of 7%. And you only live off of 4% of those returns. So as a result, even though your nest egg grew by 7%, since you're living on roughly half of that, your nest egg grows a little bit more at the end of each year to account for inflation, and you never actually touch that initial nest egg investment. So as a result, the math changes a little bit. So if we want to provide $40,000 a year to our kids and their kids' kids, we need a nest egg that we're never going to touch, and we need them to live off of 4% of it. So you would do $40,000 divided by 0.04. It actually comes out to a clean flat $1 million. I know what you're thinking, Adrian, isn't $1 million significantly less than that $2.9 million that you mentioned before? But actually over the growth of that $1 million, since you're only living off of 4% while it's growing 7%, and those are averages, so it should most likely work out, you will actually still get that $3 million of value over the lifetime of that investment. But honestly, that is a clean-cut goal of $1 million. You just have to be a millionaire in order to pass on generational wealth. Obviously, $1 million in today's money is a lot more of an achievable goal than the connotation people tend to have with a millionaire. However, if you have 3 kids, you have to take that $1 million and multiply it by 3. So just keep that in mind. Since the average household has 2.2 kids, you'll probably need something closer to $2.2 million. But hey, we're talking about generational wealth here, so there should be no surprise that you do need a decent amount of money in order to provide for your kids and their kids' kids. I also just realized it's probably easier if I just said kids and grandkids this whole video, but when I was scripting it, for some reason, I typed it out that way. So that pretty much clarifies what I mean by money. So let's move on to the second topic of how to build generational wealth, which is investing into the correct assets. I know that technically stocks are an asset, but they're actually considered paper assets. So in this section of the video, I'm talking about real assets like cars, collections, and most commonly real estate. To be completely honest, in my opinion, the most valuable asset that you can pass on to your kids and grandkids is a paid-for house. The reason I say this is because typically the largest payment people have to pay for every single month is either rent or a mortgage payment. And if you're able to pass on to your kids and grandkids a paid-for house, they will always be able to have a place where that number practically falls to $0. I know you might make more money putting the money that you have in your house into stocks, but there's always a balance you need to strike with increasing your net worth and your available cash flow. Personally, for me as a 25-year-old, I think cash flow is significantly more important for somebody my age than gaining their net worth. Even on top of that, a paid-for house could still even outperform a stock portfolio. So it's not like you're guaranteeing them lowering their net worth. Now, the most common way to pay for a house is over a lifetime. So it's better to get started early, lock in certain interest rates, and start paying for it because it's going to be a 15, 30, 45-year journey. The reason I say that is because I remember growing up, our parents were so pissed at themselves for throwing away their baseball cards from when they were younger because now they're worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And my generation is going through that right now with Pokemon cards. So I think a collection over your lifetime, if you think you have a hobby and you know a decent amount about it, don't hesitate to put some money into it and build a collection that you can pass on to your kid because that might be worth a crap ton of money later on in their life. Like I said, I think our generation's form of that was Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the next generation's form is probably going to be something like an NFT. And if you don't know what that is, it's perfectly fine. I think they're stupid, but they might be worth a crap ton of money in a few years. All of that is to say is to not hesitate to put money into your hobbies, especially if it's into collectibles throughout your lifetime, because it brings you happiness while you're here, and there's a chance that it brings your kids a lot of money. To finish off the video, I want to talk about the most important thing that you need to pass on to your kid in order to create generational wealth. And in my opinion, that is having the correct mindset when it comes to money and finances. I think becoming wealthy is kind of paradoxical in nature. So what I mean by that is people who tend to end up wealthy definitely didn't start that way. So they had to teach themselves how to hold on to their money while also teaching themselves how to get money. While the kids of wealthy people tend to think being wealthy is equal to being rich, they're more obsessed with spending the money since they didn't have to live frugally and sacrifice to gain it. The first generation that actually gained the wealth understands the security that is provided when you have assets, and you have stocks, and you have money available to you. While the next generation equates that to being rich, so they think money is connected to spending in terms of getting the newest clothes, getting the newest cars, having the nicest technology. And in my opinion, that's why a lot of times you'll see those second generational wealthy people end up with a lower net worth than the first generation. This is why, in my opinion, you have to teach your kids, no matter how wealthy you are, that they need to deserve the money that you're going to pass down to them. So what I mean by this is if you don't agree with their life decisions, it's perfectly fine saying, hey, you're able to do whatever you want to do as an adult, but I'm not going to continue my legacy if you're not willing to put in the work to deserve the legacy that I've built up for you. But that's it for today's video. If you liked it, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And remember, it may be hard now, but it doesn't always have to be. I'll see you in the next one.